Hi folks, Ron here from Home Base. Before we get started, I'm excited to announce the 8th annual Be Fit Challenge powered by National Grid at the TD Garden in Boston on January 28th, 2024. This is a military and first responder fundraiser, and Home Base is one of the beneficiaries for the care of our patients. Run, walk, and do any or all of the steps up and around the garden. It's definitely called a challenge for good reason. You'll get to meet Boston Bruins alumni and remember the after party. You will need to raise $300, and the time to sign up is now. You can also do this virtually from January 19th through the 26th, so click the links in the show notes to learn more, and we hope to see you there.
It's competitive, and it's tough. And when you step out onto the ice, I would compare it to when we do close quarter battle. You know, for that 1 hour that you're out on the ice, you can't think of anything else but surviving on the ice, not hurting yourself, not hurting your teammate, trying to skate, trying to understand your edges. Oh, by the way, there's a puck that's out there that's moving around. You got boards that are not going to move around if you run into them. And by the way, we're all competitive. So you combine all those things together and it has an amazingly therapeutic value.
On the show today, retired Navy SEAL Captain Ryan Croley and retired Boston Bruin Frank Simonetti. Happy holidays and welcome to our last episode of Season 6 of Home Base Nation. We are so grateful for your support, for listening to stories and conversations on service, serving others, and mind-body health for our service members, veterans, and families. This is our 138th episode since Veterans Day 2019, and our production team has been rising to the occasion ever since, with inspiring content that we always try to keep interesting, and we try to keep you interested. Many thanks to Media Lab Chairman Peter Smythe, who has helped us make this show a reality, to our leadership, Brigadier General Jack Hammond, and COO Michael Allard. And special thanks to the Home Base Nation team, Steve Monaco, Kelly Field, Justin Scheinert, and Chuck Clow, for bringing all new episodes to the podcast universe every 2 weeks.
And now it's time to meet the Warrior for Life All-Stars.
So introduced to Home Base by Senior Clinical Director Dr. Joe Bonvie, Ryan Croley and Frank Simonetti came by our place while in town for the Bruins Alumni versus Warrior for Life Fund face-off at the Warrior Ice Arena. Captain Joe Bonvie, who has not only retired from the Navy, he's a retired pro hockey goalie, and as someone wearing all the hats, we are lucky to have him with us at Home Base. Veteran, athlete, and psychologist.
Representing the Boston Bruins alumni, Ryan Croley, Captain of the All-Stars.
Retired Navy SEAL Captain Ryan Croley founded the Warrior for Life Fund in 2012 after never skating or picking up a hockey stick until his mid-30s. He set out to create a fun, competitive, bonding experience for veterans, active duty service members, and families on the ice. And from the get-go, it's been all about inclusion. And this means no matter the skill level, ability, or disability.
On defense, the president of the Boston Bruins alumni, 4 years in the NHL, number 21, Frank Simonetti.
Frank Simonetti played for the Boston Bruins from 1984 to 88 and has been with the Bruins alumni team for over 30 years. And along with the Bruins Foundation has been helping to raise funds and awareness for people and organizations in need. The Bruins Alumni has been around for more than 50 years, starting in 1968. And in 2024, believe it or not, it's going to be the 100th anniversary of the Boston Bruins. Frank is the current president of the Bruins Alumni, and since 2019 has been on the board of the Warrior for Life Fund. The Warrior for Life Fund supports 5 memorial games per year, paying tribute to specific fallen heroes. And the game on December 2nd was dedicated to Navy SEAL Nate Hardy from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Nate was killed in action overseas in 2008. The series was tied at 1-1 going into this exciting game, and Steve and Donna Hardy, Nate's parents, were there to drop the opening puck. Both Ryan's and Frank's teams went head-to-head for the third game of the series. Amidst a touch of pre-game smack talk, some great sentiment all around, and most of all, a conversation about the bonds on and off the ice, I was fortunate to have a talk with Ryan and Frank at our Center of Excellence at Home Base, overlooking the USS Constitution, truly appropriate backdrop for a Bostonian Bruin and a Navy veteran. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you on the other end. We'll get Joe there, Dr. Captain, previous, what's the minor league NHL for Joe?
Well, there's American Hockey League, there's East Coast Hockey League.
This is Joe's stats. What do you think? Decent? Decent record for Joe before he walks in?
But he was a goalie, right? Bondy.
Joe Bondy? Yes, he was a goalie.
Well, he was a goalie.
ECHL.
I got his stats here for you. Yeah. He's what?
He played in the ECHL, East
Yeah.
Coast Hockey League,
Yeah.
which is 2 levels below, the NHL, AHL,
Yeah.
ECHL. But,
Yeah.
Joe was my command psych. That's how I first met him.
Yeah.
And the second question I asked him when he walked in the door was, do you play hockey?
Right.
And that's what reintroduced him to hockey.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
a reintroduce into hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Huh.
And then he played in my program for a couple of years. And then when he transitioned up here, it was just, it was like an act of God that we were able to reconnect. It was pretty amazing.
As a retired Navy SEAL, as a retired professional hockey player, 2 different worlds, but there's a Venn diagram here. And there's something you're sharing that you know, back to what you're saying about Dr. Bonvie, that you know who's gonna play and not. There's a real connection here, and I don't have to tell you that. Well, that's another reason why we're sitting across from each other. So Frank Simonetti, great to have you here, sir. Hometown guy.
Stoneham, Mass.
And Ryan Croley, Navy SEAL. Was it 26 years?
26 years in the Navy, yeah.
Yeah. I know, so I was just telling actually Annie, your wife, that I had the pleasure of a few months ago, I went down with our team to talk to folks at Dam Neck and Little Creek down in Virginia Beach about home base. And I know that when you visited Virginia Beach also, Frank, something gelled when you guys first met.
I think it was about 7 years ago. I was invited down by a mutual friend of ours to participate in a Memorial Game weekend and just meet the guys and see if there was any interest on my part in getting involved in the program. So this was probably 2015. So we got to play in this Memorial Game, of which we saw operators with their wives and kids out on the ice in a closed arena, in an arena that is nothing special, just they're happy to have it and having the best time. And they welcomed myself and Bob Beers, who came down to participate in this game, like we were long lost brothers. Immediately welcomed us into the locker room, into their family. They treated us, I will say, like rock stars, and we didn't want to be treated that way. They just were happy we were down there recognizing their program and that we had the interest in hearing what was going on down there. And I came back just fired up to get the Bruins Alumni, and the Bruins Foundation involved in the Warrior for Life program.
When you were on the plane back, what was going on in your mind? Thoughts of how you could connect?
The obvious connection is through hockey, right? Yeah. Being down there made me realize how important hockey was to me, how important an alumni association was, because when I retired and other guys retired, they had something to go to and still feel connected to their community. And I saw down in Virginia Beach how many of the guys are retired that are in the hockey program. There are active duties as well, but they come to the rink to stay connected with their community. So I immediately saw these parallels that I was unaware of until it was right in front of me, how important my guys, my team, were to me when I retired. And
that brotherhood.
The brotherhood, yeah, great way to put it. And it was important to me to help them further their cause, because they had a great program, but they needed, and they never asked for help. That's one thing I noticed. They would not ask for anything. So we decided to put some effort behind raising some awareness, raising some funds, and it was easy to tell their story when I came back home and Bob Beers came back home, that there's hockey in Virginia Beach, guys, believe it or not, and the elite force of our military is down there playing it as a therapeutic tool and keeping their connections going. So it sold itself, basically.
Right. 3 or so years before that, Ryan, you wanted to do something and I think it was it Virginia Hockey Club?
It was the Virginia Beach Hockey Club.
Yeah. You thought about starting something at that time.
It originated up here in New England. I was stationed at the Naval War College.
You're in Rhode Island.
I'm in Rhode Island, and I'm here as a geographical bachelor, which means that I left my family back in Virginia Beach. And so I'm here during the week, going to the War College for a year. And I realized that I better pick up a hobby because I would get myself in trouble, otherwise. So I started leaving the War College at noon and would go down to the rink down there and taught myself how to play hockey at age 35.
Age 35. Did you know how to skate before?
No, couldn't skate. I couldn't stand up on skates. So it was fascinating. So University of Rhode Island had just put in a new rink.
See, these Navy SEALs, man, it's
They're pretty good athletes. I don't know if you heard.
So you, what drove you to hockey itself?
One is just it's a team sport. It's gritty. It's tough. I grew up as an athlete playing football. Football is not a life sport. You played a couple years in college, and you're done. You'll never play the game again. The thing about hockey that has attracted me so much to it is, you can learn at a young age. You can leave the game, and you can come back at age 40, play again for another 40 years. There's leagues all over, and it's amazing. But the center point, I think, is what it brings is that locker room camaraderie that Frank was describing when he came down and kind of saw what was going on. The locker room banter, check your ego at the door, type stuff. No one cares if you're a Navy SEAL when you're out on the ice playing. And I learned that from the University of Rhode Island kids real early. They didn't care who I was. They were just unimpressed with my hockey skills when I was out there. So that the humility of the sport is just is amazing.
The mission as well.
Yeah, it's competitive,
Yeah.
And it's tough. And when you step out onto the ice, I would compare it to when we do close quarter battle. For that 1 hour that you're out on the ice, you can't think of anything else but surviving on the ice, not hurting yourself, not hurting your teammate, trying to skate, trying to understand your edges. Oh, by the way, there's a puck that's out there that's moving around. You got boards that are not going to move around if you run into them. And by the way, we're all competitive. So you combine all those things together, and it has an amazingly therapeutic value.
When the team is bigger than the individual parts, how do you rely on each other on the ice? You get brotherhood in the locker room. You get brotherhood with that connection and something you all love. But what's it like when you're actually in the flow, in the moment, and you're relying on each other?
Hockey players are competitive by nature, and they want to win. And it's very rare that a team that relies on just one star player wins. So you have to rely on teamwork. So you practice teamwork, you implement teamwork, and if you do it correctly and you have enough talent, you will win. Plenty of talented teams who try to be individuals don't get very far. It just kind of happens. If you want to be an elite competitor on the ice, you have to work together.
Sound familiar?
It's exactly on point with that's the attraction. That's the thing that when we engage with each other, NHL players, Navy SEALs in particular, we have this immediate bond, this relationship, because of the way I think the game is, the grittiness of it, but the component of the athlete and how the athlete is built, the size, shape, characteristics of what they value, and I think what we have to value because of the way our mission is designed. Similarity is between a hockey player and the operator that we have is just so consistent that the bond is immediate. And we kind of see the same style of play, the same flow of the game. The kind of unstructured flow of the game that happens in hockey is kind of very similar to what we're doing. Kind of how we value leadership across the board. So it comes together just very nicely.
I was walking to the commuter line to go home the other night, and I actually noticed 1924 and 2024, 100 years. And I was very embarrassed because I was a Flyers fan. Anyway, I grew up near Buffalo, so I was actually originally a Sabres fan. Anyway, Chuck is kind of shuddering over there with it. So that's pretty amazing. And I saw that the Alumni Foundation is what?
The Bruins Foundation is 20 years old.
Okay.
And they've done great work within the community for children's causes, wellness, education, and they're big supporters of the military as well. And as I mentioned earlier, when I went back to them and said, this is what's happening down in Virginia Beach, which is out of their territory, okay? Because typically an NHL team has this 300-mile radius that they deal with and they support. But when I came back and said, hey, look, the Washington Capitals are 300 miles north, the Carolina Hurricanes are 300 miles south, there's a void here, and there's a hungry hockey community.
Yeah.
We need to step into that and help the community, help the Naval Special Warfare, but also build the Bruins brand down there. And it's funny, you go down and there's kids wearing Bruin gear now and
Nice.
Bruins hats, and it's a real warm feeling to know that we help bring that to it.
The Warrior for Life Foundation's been around. I think you changed it in 2019, was it?
We did.
Yeah. I was very impressed too, as a physiatrist, a rehab doc. You know, down the road at Spalding, we have colleagues that work a lot with amputees and with the Paralympic population. One thing I wanted to mention is that in 2011, we know Joey Woodkey. Is that how you pronounce his name?
It is, yeah.
He's a Marine who had a bilateral amputee in 2011, and he, like you, wasn't a hockey player. And I think he moved down to Nashville, I think, in Tennessee, and something connected with a guy he met that played hockey, and boom, fast forward 10 years later, he's on the U.S. Paralympic team.
Gold medal team.
Gold medal team. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe you could talk a little bit about Warrior for Life, and then bring in the adaptive component.
Yeah.
Would be great.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things to talk about. First, I'll say, when we rebranded Warrior for Life Fund, the rebranding was part of our professionalization with the Boston Bruins. So when they came in and kind of looked at our program, we were touching a lot of people, and we realized we can do more, and how therapeutic what we were doing, and how great the need was in the area. So it honestly took some convincing to, hey, we need to rebrand this a little bit, really think about what we're doing, and move it away from just being hockey to really an ethos of how we're going to live. You know, we're using hockey as kind of a tool, but Warrior for Life means we're going to live our ethos for our entire life.
Right.
And that's through transition, that's through everything. So we kind of hatched that plan at that time, and with the support of the Bruins Alumni, Navy SEAL Foundation, some other key partners, Fisher House, Operation Hat Trick, we kind of convinced them to come on board and function with us. 100% benevolent operated organization, so all on just donations, and some other key big donors.
Right.
So that was the genesis of the professionalization. When I first started the adaptive program, it was under the Virginia Beach Hockey Club idea, and we were always inclusive. The idea was, bring your families out, bring your kids out. Let's learn how to play together. Some high-end people and some people that had never played the game. Well, there was one.
You had that philosophy from the start.
We did, yeah. So it's because
Inclusion.
Going back to what I learned when I learned hockey, it wasn't about me being competitive. It was honestly just because I was struggling. I was struggling with my own coping ability. I'd been employed 10 times, at that point, and I find myself up here alone. And I had some, traumatic brain injury, type stuff that had gone on, and I was really struggling. But hockey gave me that thing to kind of ground me a little bit, and I saw the impact it had on me, and I wanted to help others. So when I brought it back to Virginia Beach, and I moved back to Virginia Beach, I started the club. So fast forward to when I had this inclusive program, I'm actually, I forced Dr. Bonvie to come out and play with us. I was in command at the time, so I was like, if you're working for me in the morning, you're going to come out and play hockey.
Yeah.
So, you can either go do a 10-mile run, or you can come out and skate with us. So decide what you want to do.
PT or skates, right?
Yeah. So interesting. People want to learn new things and learn new skills. I offered the families to come out, and one of my Navy chiefs said, "Hey, I have a son that's a quadriplegic. What do you think about bringing him out?" And I said, "I think it's a great idea." And didn't have a sled, so if you can imagine, we're pushing this young man around on his wheelchair. We're just pushing him around the ice. He's got a helmet on him, and we're just playing the game. And I loved driving him. It was my thing. Because he had limited control of his arm, but He could, you could line him up, hit the stick, and do whatever. Well, there was this one moment that happened where we were just kind of playing and doing whatever, and the puck got out in front of him. It was a little pickup game. I was pushing him at the appropriate pace, but I saw him march in his chair because he felt the rush of the game. And that one moment, he felt the rush. He felt that he was on a breakaway, and I just felt that little arch with him, and I lined him up, and he swung, and we completely missed. But I'll tell you what, it connected, because I realized I gave that young man, or that opportunity gave that young man something that a lot of us take for granted, which is playing sports, that feeling of camaraderie, the rush of the game. So that's what hooked me on the adaptive thing.
He gave you something in that same moment too.
He absolutely gave it to me. So
for creating this program.
Right. Yeah. So I reached out to USA Hockey. I said, hey, you have this adaptive program? And they granted me five sleds. And that's where we started our program. And from there, we plopped veterans down into sleds that were struggling, pop them down into the sled, and they just take to the game. So just like we described with the standing version of hockey, the parallel Olympic adaptive program is so much like the game. The translation is clean.
Right.
It's
different skills.
It's cleaner than wheelchair basketball, for instance, because you're hitting each other out on the ice. The contact, the grittiness is the same. You're sliding across the ice, the same. The edges of the blades are really the same as what your feet, the translation to the feet. There's 8 edges on blades. There's 8 edges on the blades in adaptive hockey as well.
Yeah, it's
and
quick,
for the high-end players, they can feel those edges and just play the game at a really high level.
If I could add a little bit more on the adaptive program, we've been very fortunate over the past 4 years to have Joey Woodkey and members of the U.S. Paralympic gold medal team come down and work with our adaptive players, teach clinics, and do some scrimmages with them. And it started out with 2 guys, Travis Dotson and Joey Woodkey, and the next year was 4 players. And this past year we had 8 U.S. Paralympians, all gold medalists, including the best sled hockey player in the world, Declan Farmer, down playing with, teaching our kids, having an integrated scrimmage with them. And then we picked the highest level players we have in the Warrior for Life program and integrated the Paralympians, and they had a full-on, no-holds-barred game. And it was one of the most exciting things I've seen up close. Standing at ice level, watching these guys go at it was amazing because they move a lot faster than most stand-up hockey players. They just fly. So
I wanted to just add one of the therapeutic things to that about adaptive hockey, and I put it into 2 categories. I put it into categories of learned disabilities and people that are born with them. And when I structure them that way, it's interesting because I have the athlete who was a very accomplished Navy SEAL, very accomplished special operations, maybe just a sheriff's deputy or whatever, but they've always been an athlete their entire life. And now they find themselves for some reason having to play an adaptive sport. And they're in this adaptive sport and they're out there playing and they get the camaraderie, they get the feel. But really where it sinks and it lines up is when I put them out there with somebody who grew up with spinal bifida, and maybe this is the first time they've ever played a sport in their life.
Wow.
And you put those 2 out there together and they now find themselves teammates.
Talk about a bond.
It gives everyone perspective.
Yeah.
You have one athlete that maybe is initially a little disappointed that they're having to play an adaptive sport, and you have another athlete that could not be more excited that they're having an opportunity to play a competitive play.
Yeah.
And you put them together, and they are out there. They learn together. They bond together. It is amazing to watch and see.
Wow.
And then to the point where I even have some athletes that are stand-up players, but that will just get in the sled to be part of the team, to be part of their old teammates, and play with them. At that in the sled and say, hey, we'll play it. And the adaptive Paralympic sled hockey sport is so competitive and so fast. It's fun.
The fact that you've included that from the start, because it's kind of this similar the same language of camaraderie and brotherhood, and no matter what age, and you talked about kids and families coming out, to really level that playing field for everybody is huge. Because at the end of the day, you're taking people's minds off of some things as well. When you talk about how it affects people on the ice and off the ice.
Yeah, both short term, kind of, and gives them some goals. So the immediate effect is you kind of feel this release. You feel better because you're competing, because you're playing. Play is important.
Yeah.
Even as we get older as adults, you're feeling the camaraderie in the locker room. You look forward to it. You want to be the best athlete that you can be. At whatever level you can be at, whatever age you are. So we give each other goals. We check each other at the door, to make sure, hey, why weren't you showing up? Why didn't you make the practice? Why didn't you make the game?
Right.
Are you doing okay? And that peer-to-peer interaction is really that's the magic.
I'm going to show you some faces here. They're going to be familiar to you. We'll talk about different ages. We got Mr. Chara right down here somewhere, who just graduated from the Bruins 2020, right? Kevin Miller right there. But then we got a couple other faces, Mr. Simonetti, and then we have Ray Bork. Tell me a little bit about that camaraderie and that fraternity, in a sense, of the alumni.
The Bruins alumni have been around for 55 years, started by Eddie Sanford and Milt Schmidt back in 1968, because they felt the need to reconnect. And they would just play a couple games, pick up around Massachusetts primarily, helping people raise awareness and funds. Small operation. And then John Busick took it over for many years and really elevated it. And then went from Bob Sweeney to Rick Middleton. And all the while, before I took over last year, and all the while we've been growing a network of charity partners who we've helped raise well over $10 million. I was fortunate enough to play with Ray and to Rick Middleton and Terry O'Reilly, who was a big part of our alumni organization for years. And the one thing about hockey players is they like to do good in the communities that they played in. Yeah. There are so many Bruins who grew up in Canada, grew up in other parts of the country, who retire to New England, to Boston area when they're done playing, because it's rich with history, it's rich with culture, and the hockey community just loves what they did for them when they played. So Ray's a very generous guy. Rick Middleton, one person that you maybe didn't scroll down low enough for, Patrice Bergeron will be making his debut with the Bruins alumni Saturday, December 2nd. And
right at the Warrior Arena.
And there's two reasons for it. Three, he's a great guy. Two, he's good friends and former teammate with Kevin Miller, who has spent some time here working with some of your veterans.
Sure.
And three, he really enjoys and appreciates the cause, the Warrior for Life Fund, and helping out the Naval Special Warfare community. Back in 2019, Kevin was able to arrange a tour of the Bruins locker room, and he brought the guys downstairs. And who came out to greet them? Zdeno Chara, Patrice Bergeron, and Brad Marchand. Yeah. They wanted to meet these warriors, and they had a protracted conversation about stuff. And I stayed back. I didn't want any part of it, because this is rarefied air. These two groups talking. This game between the Warrior for Life Fund All-Stars and the Bruins alumni has been the catalyst to get these guys into our organization when they maybe didn't think they'd be doing that so close to their retirement. So hats off to them.
Yeah, so they're meeting tip of the spear, special operator guys and gals in military on and off these teams and families. And they're bonding, not unlike you guys across the table here. And at the same time, on this website, I could imagine that brotherhood, like we see in the military, you have mentors, and they have mentors in you, Frank.
Well, one thing about hockey players and the guys who run the programs. They lead by example. Terry Riley and Rick Middleton and Bob Sweeney and John Busick never told us what we had to do.
Yeah.
They led, we followed, they showed us how to be good citizens. Even when we were playing, the Bruins were very good about getting out in the community. But it's a lot different when you retire. There's a whole number of people that need your help. And the Bruins alumni have been there for years. And we have some charities that have been with us for 20 years now. Mass Down Syndrome Congress, we've helped them raise almost $2 million. This game we're playing Saturday, the series is tied 1-1. Okay?
Okay.
And Captain Croley over here has taken himself out of the lineup, along with anybody else over 35 years old, to try to stack the deck, all right, because he wants to win. I don't know what that's all about. But they're going to bring a wagon to this game. We're going to do our best as well. But in whatever the outcome, and I've gone back and watched the tapes from the last 2 years, smiles on the ice all the time. Guys are having a great time, and that bond between our players and their players is palpable. And I have to fend off people. We put out a schedule. Here's the games we're going to play, guys. Everybody wants to be in this game, and I have to turn people away.
Yeah.
Because not everybody can be in there.
Well, hey, you're the president, right?
But it just shows you how important this cause is to our players. They really appreciate what they've done for this country.
That's an interesting take. I'm going to defend myself here a little bit on my lineup. And I will tell you that my situation is very similar to Frank's with the alumni. The request to participate is off the charts for my group of guys. I mean, I have 150 SEALs players that are in and around the Virginia Beach area that have been in and out of our program. This last year, because of what we've been doing on the East Coast and partnered with the Boston Bruins, and it's just been so great. We do 5 Memorial Games a year now. This is obviously the highlight. Face Off for Heroes is what we call this game here. We were asked this year to go out and do it in San Diego. So we flew a couple of Boston Bruins, a couple of my headquarters folks, but we recreated this organization, this program in San Diego this year. And it was amazing. We had a packed house. Awesome. 2,000 people in attendance, all largely veterans in our community. But we named it after a family. We always name the game after an operator. We named this game after Nick Spihar. And I didn't know Nick. The way that we got to the naming the game in San Diego after Nick was I asked some of my San Diego players to nominate somebody. So you guys tell me who's the right guy in the community, who's the right family, to honor. And they came up with Nick. Long story short, his dad came out and mom and dad dropped the puck. His dad's like, I want to play. So he jumped into the game, scored the first goal. I couldn't get him off the ice. And their family is so excited. He's here with us today. He's here with us in this weekend. He's like, I'm coming to Boston to watch
of course.
The game,
he's in.
The Nate Hardy game that you guys are having here. So he's showed up. So it's just really growing and doing those things. So I'll get back to my point about defending my lineup here. I have so many strong, young, talented players and that want to bring their families up and and engage in this game and kind of live that experience. And that's what we're about. We're about creating meaningful memories for operators and that kind of go through. So I have to pull myself out of line. I've had this meaningful bond with these guys over 10 years, so of course I have to pull myself out. But I did bring my best 4 players.
Spread the wealth a little.
I did bring my best 4 players from the West Coast that I could find. So we do have a young lineup.
You did know
out.
that, right?
I did,
yeah.
yes.
Well, you mentioned Nate Hardy, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, born December 28th. U.S. Navy, active duty, killed in action in 2008. So that's what this game tomorrow is dedicating to him and his family.
Mm-hmm. So Nate and I served together at Development Group. So we did know each other as close bonded people, but we knew each other. Kind of different levels of leadership, and really the reason we decided to go with Nate, we could have picked 40 guys. We had 40 or 50 really good guys to pick from, and that that's hard for me to say. So my fingers and toes, I can't count enough of my really good friends, guys that I knew and knew well, that just aren't here anymore at a really young age. So it's, you can't memorialize enough. There's just so much that's out there. But
he speaks for his other brothers by
he does
memorializing him tomorrow. So.
And really his family too. His dad, Steve, who, ever since we lost Nate, Steve's just been a big supporter of the community, actively engaged, communicating to Nate's teammates, kind of letting them all know it's okay. And that's hard enough for Steve Hardy to say. I know it is. And just stayed committed and, connected. So that was one of the reasons that we decided to honor Nate. And he was from the the Boston area, so we did a little bit of research. Again, we bubbled it up, and we named the name after the game after Nate last year, and it was such an incredible success that we're going to do it in perpetuity now. So it is now, the Nate Hardy, memorial game face-off for Heroes in Boston. We'll play the Bruins from now until Frank and I aren't doing this anymore. We have a gentleman's skate this afternoon. We called it the gentleman's game this afternoon.
With Joe.
And Joe's coming to play, so I'll be skating in that game.
Okay, all right. And it's 1-1, the series.
Series 1-1, yeah. Steve and Donna Hardy will drop the puck tomorrow, and there'll be about 28 other Hardy family members, extended family members, in the stands watching the game, and it's a great cause for them to get together and talk and keep their bonds as a family going too. So Ryan mentioned earlier, inclusive, all about family. Every time we do an event, whether it's in Virginia Beach, out in San Diego, up here, the families come, the wives, kids. It is exactly how we run our Bruins Alumni. When we take a trip, the wives come, the kids participate. So the similarities between our two programs were profound. So very easy for us. The Venn diagram you mentioned earlier, yes, it's a pretty big overlap.
In 2024, we, Warrior for Life Fund, we are stepping out into a new place where we're saying, as part of what we do is our therapeutic hockey, but we also do, cognitive health. We're formalizing. We do it. We clinicians, providers, and we do mental health through group sessions, therapies with providers, clinicians. We do mental performance. We're in our human performance center that we just opened 2 weeks ago. We did a year build out on it.
Fantastic.
To drive our programs. That is, that's where we're going in the future. Hockey is a therapeutic tool. The ice is a tool that we use. We talked about it a lot today. But we're stepping out because we know there's such an urgent need. We're always available for peer-to-peer interaction, a referral, just help. And that's where we're going in the future. And again, it's something that I'm going to dedicate my life to, from this point on. So,
and it literally in the family. I know just meeting your wife and that background of cognitive health work and all that great work she's done. And it only took you guys 100 years to connect in 2024, right? Sorry, I had to throw that in.
You did. What the Bruins are doing with their centennial celebration is impressive. You weren't aware of it. A lot of people were not aware of it, but they have done a great job representing hockey in the NHL here, and it'll go on for years to come. It's a great team to watch, and I can say from our alumni perspective, we're very appreciative of the support that they give to us and allow us to help organizations like the Warrior for Life Fund. Yeah. It's a great partnership.
Thank you, Ryan Croley and Frank Simonetti, for your service on and off the ice and for connecting people through the great sport of hockey. Thanks for visiting us at home base and for all your work in bringing the Bruins military worlds together for some great therapy and great times. Special thanks to our colleague, Dr. Joe Bonvie, who has been bringing sport, psychology, and service together with passion for many years. I'd like to note that Ryan's wife, Annie Tamburello, is a speech and language pathologist and brain injury specialist who treats veterans, service members, and civilians with TBI who need cognitive rehab. So check out Cortex Initiative at Virginia Beach for more information. So through the Warrior for Life Foundation, they are doing great work, and along with Frank Simonetti and others, it's about impact factor and showing that support for those who need the help. Homebase Nation is the official podcast for Homebase program for veterans and military families. Our team sees veterans, service members, and their families addressing the invisible wounds of war, all at no cost. This is all made possible thanks to a grateful nation. And if you want to learn more on how you can help, visit homebase.org, or if you or anyone you know would like to connect to CARE, you can always reach us at 617-724-5202. Make sure to check out the Be Fit Challenge that will take place on January 28th, 2024, or sign up virtually January 19th through the 26th, and check out all the links in the episode notes. This episode was edited by Chuck Clow, producer at Above the Basement. Thank you all for joining us on this final episode of the year, Season 6 of Homebase Nation. This is Ron Hirschberg. We'll see you back in 2024.